Hey folks, so in this last election, California voters voted Prop 19 into law. Now, just like in every election, there were a number of propositions, but the passage of Prop 19 is particularly important to real estate and real estate investors, more so than any other in this election. Now, for a little background, let's first touch on one of Prop 19's predecessors, the context of which is important to fully understanding and comprehending Prop 19. And what I'm talking about is Prop 13, which was passed back in 1978. Now, what Prop 13 did was two important things for property owners. First, it capped the base tax rate at 1% of the assessed value plus local voter-approved bonds. And second, it capped the maximum annual tax assessment increase on property at 2% maximum, except when the property is either sold or significantly improved, such as developing raw land. See, after Nixon took us off the gold standard back in 1971, inflation through the 70s took off. And in the meantime, California continued to see strong migration and population growth, accompanied naturally by strong housing demand. See, even back in the 70s, housing inventory in California was a problem. So put population growth together with increasing housing demand and top it off with rapid inflation, and you had a recipe for disaster, particularly for retired Californians on fixed incomes. And at the time, property values were reassessed periodically as their values increased. So if a property value went from, let's say, $25,000 to $35,000 within a couple of years' time, then there was nothing preventing the property taxes from increasing proportionately. And that, of course, led to elderly and retired homeowners being unfortunately displaced and driven out of their homes faster than ever before. So Prop 13 was really a lifesaver for many Californians and has since been technically revered as a bipartisan legislation off limits from attack for the most part, with a few exceptions. And real quick, I do want to point out, since we're talking about Prop 13 and not being under attack, it's not immune by any means. In fact, in this last election, Prop 15 was on the ballot, and what Prop 15 was an attempted partial repeal, essentially, of Prop 13, but as it pertains to commercial properties. And that measure did not pass. It was voted down by an actual slim margin. But at the same time, I just wanted to bring that up because if Prop 15 had passed, then this might be a different conversation. But again, that was largely focused on the commercial side, not the residential side, which we're primarily talking about here. Now, in the last decade, as California's housing supply has dwindled more than ever, what's actually happened is that owners who might otherwise have sold and moved, whether downsized or upsized, they've instead decided to stay put and held onto that property just to avoid increasing their tax base when they move to another property. So for example, if you bought a home in San Diego, let's say in 2010, for the median home price at the time of around $300,000, your assessed value after 10 years, in 2020 now, after the maximum annual assessment increase of 2% per year, your assessed tax base would still only be $365,000. So what's the problem here? Well, think about it. Let's say you are able to sell your home today for $700,000. Let's say that same $300,000 property. And now you want to downsize. See, even if you cash out at $700,000 and downsize, let's say, to something around $600,000, your property taxes are still nearly double what they would have been if you had stayed put. And that, my friends, is where Prop 19 comes into play. See, what Prop 19 does is that it allows seniors 55 years and older to roll their lower tax base into the purchase of another property, even if it's more expensive. Now, it does kind of combine, so they're not going to get a super duper low tax base if they're doubling the property value that they're buying, but it will combine and it will merge, and it's going to benefit them greatly. Because now, up until now, this is big, Prop 60 and Prop 90, I know there's a lot of propositions in this video, but Prop 60 and Prop 90 allowed seniors to move their tax base to participating counties in California once and only once. And it was only if it was the same or lesser value than the property they were selling. So when you really have only one shot to use a benefit such as this, it makes you really think much longer and harder before pulling the trigger. And with Prop 19 on the other hand, sellers now don't have to, make that super hard decision and decide whether or not this one next buy, this sell and buy, is going to be the right place for retirement forever and ever, or whether they should just hold out longer in their current home. See, one of the goals of Prop 19 seeks to achieve is to free up additional housing inventory, which is badly needed in California. The second primary part of this proposition is to limit the inheritance of a low tax base to only heirs who will occupy the property as their primary residence. Because see, up until now, if someone passed away and let's say they left their portfolio of around 10 properties that they'd owned for, let's say, 20 years to their heir, then that heir would be able to retain ownership indefinitely and continue to enjoy a rock bottom tax rate. With the passage of Prop 19, however, that heir doesn't have it so easy anymore. Now, to maintain that low tax base now, they must occupy the property as their primary residence, and obviously, it's not possible to do that with more than one property. In fact, it's estimated that over 650,000 California property owners have benefited from a low tax base on inherited property in the past decade, so this number is not insignificant. Now, one additional main point of Prop 19 is that it provides the same benefits of rolling over a low tax base into another property to victims who lost their homes to wildfire. And this really makes sense, I think, because allowing these people to maintain one of the best benefits of long-term property ownership in California, despite the physical loss of the property, I think it really makes sense to help those people out. And so as you can see, with Prop 19, there are some winners and there are some losers. Seniors and 55 and over are the clear winners here, and heirs inheriting multiple properties, which they won't be occupying, are in a sense the losers, since their tax base is now going to reset to market value when they inherit those properties. Either way, the expectation and hope for Prop 19 is that it will free up inventory in a market that needs it so badly, and to provide further funding for wildfire victims and to fight wildfires. As with everything, however, we'll have to watch and see how this actually plays out. In the meantime, folks, if you haven't already, please be sure to hit the thumbs up if you found any value in this video and consider sharing it. As always, thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Take care.